G'day avocado enthusiasts. One of the most important things that we can think of when it comes to keeping our avocado trees happy and healthy is the kind of soil or potting mix that we use. A few years ago, I made a video about the kind of avocado potting mix that I use, my recipe, and I've changed it since I made that video. So today I'm going to make an update of my new and improved soil mix recipe. When we keep plants, we really need to think like scientists. We need to test things out and we need to improve things based on how we find them. We need to work out what works for our plants and adjust how we do things based on what works. And I have been trying different things over the years, and I have a couple of fairly minor adjustments to my soil mix. If you haven't seen that previous video, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you today what I do for my potting mix. So there are a few things that we're going to need, and I'm going to be building my potting mix in this jar because I thought it would be a cute way to get a bit of a visual, I suppose, stacked bar graph. It's fairly rudimentary, but it'll show you exactly what it's made up of. Though usually when I make up my potting mix, I do it in a much bigger tub, and then I can kind of use it throughout the rest of the season, however long it lasts. And I should note that this is a pretty reasonable potting mix for all kinds of plants. I use this for all of my aroids, so all my philodendrons and pothos and monstera. I also use it for my hoya. There are a couple of plants that I may want to adjust it a little bit for, but for most of my indoor plants, they actually all get this same mix. This is the same mix that I use for my outdoor avocado trees as well, and I'm finding that I'm getting a lot of success with it. So first, we need to understand what avocado trees, and other plants indeed, need. One of the biggest killers of avocado trees is root rot. When people get in touch with me asking about their avocado trees and they show me pictures of them, most of the time it's root rot. And that can be caused by overwatering. It can be caused by having a too large or poor draining pot, but most of the time it's caused by poor soil. When you go and buy commercially available potting mix, I have yet to find one that really has enough drainage. Root rot comes around where there is a moist, low oxygen environment that allows certain fungi and algae to thrive, which then feed on the roots of a tree or plant, causing them to rot. It kills them. It might look like your avocado tree or other plant is out of water, so you water it more, and this just compounds the situation. So we can prevent root rot by putting our plants in well-draining soil. We also need to think about the nutrition that a plant might need, but we will get to that in this video. So let's fill this jar with my potting mix. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to add is perlite. I use 2 parts perlite, and there's about 4 parts in my potting mix, because I'll get to it at the end. But I start with perlite. Perlite is a fantastic material. Perlite is essentially very small rocks. It's super light. It's actually dense enough that it will float. And some people don't like perlite for that reason, because when you water it, sometimes it does float to the top. But what perlite does do is that it does not absorb any water, and it will allow water to pass easily through the soil. This is what we're using to create really well draining soil. In my previous mix, about 1/3 of it was perlite, and I found that actually that wasn't even quite enough. So I'm now doing about half perlite. You can buy it in bulk pretty cheaply, and it doesn't ever go off because it's literally rocks. So it's inorganic, it doesn't contain any nutrition, but it does allow water to pass really easily through it. I will recommend when you work with perlite that you have a fair bit of water on hand. Before I made this video, I went and I essentially filled a bowl of perlite with water because it's quite dusty and you don't want to get rock dust everywhere, and you certainly don't want to breathe it in. But that is the first and biggest ingredient in my potting mix, perlite. The next ingredient I will use, 1 part, the absolute cheapest potting mix I can find. I went to my local Bunnings, which is a big box store, and I bought a $3 bag of general purpose potting mix. It's mostly compost, and that's what I want it for. It's where most of the nutrition is found in the potting mix. It doesn't have nutrition specific to avocados because, you know, it's the cheapest possible potting mix, but it will have things that plants need. So, you know, there's all of your major nutrients, and I made a video about fertilizing avocado trees where you can look into more about that. There's a link in the description below. That is 3/4 of my jar full. I need to put another quarter in. For that, I want something that is actually going to retain moisture pretty well. I can't just plant avocado trees in perlite and potting mix. I find that doesn't really quite work. Avocados, they do need water. It can't just run straight out. So we need something that's going to hold the moisture fairly well. And for that, I use coconut peat. So coconut peat is replacing what I used to use, which was peat moss. I'm avoiding using peat moss where I can, not as sustainable as I would like. Whereas coconut peat does exactly the same thing. It retains water really well, and it's literally a waste product from the coconut industry. So they get their coconuts, they take the husks off, they blend up the husks, and that is essentially what coconut peat is. There's no real nutritional value in coconut peat. You know, it will eventually break down, but it's not really a good source of anything for the avocado trees. This here is in there primarily for retaining moisture, which is important in a potting mix. So that is essentially my mix, but I'm not quite finished. At the moment, it's got some nutrition in it, but I like to use what's available to me to enhance this, which is why I also like to sprinkle in some slow release fertilizer. I like slow release fertilizer, just generally it releases slowly over time. It means that at least for the first few months that your plant will be in the new soil, its fertilizing regime is pretty well sorted. You will need to fertilize your plants, just generally if a plant is in a pot or if it's in an environment that's not its native environment. I live in Australia. Any environment I put an avocado tree in is not its native environment. You will need to fertilize. In the closed environment that is a container, a pot, you don't have all of the cycles that replenish nutrition over time. And if you're growing things commercially or you want to get a lot of fruit off of it every year, you're going to need to fertilize as well. You can use a specific fruit tree fertilizer, but when avocado trees are pretty young, when they're not fruiting, it's not as important because they're not producing that fruit. So just a regular general purpose fertilizer will do. The one that I'm using today is specifically formulated for pot plants and indoor plants. So this is going to work really well. It doesn't really matter what brand, is why I'm not sharing them with you today. You don't need particular brands, you just need the things. So that is my potting mix. I've got perlite, I've got the cheapest possible potting mix, I have got coconut peat, and I've got some slow release fertilizer mixed in there as well. I'm now going to mix this up to show you what it looks like when it is not separated so nicely in a jar. And once again, I don't usually mix my soil mix up in a jar. In fact, I'm going to take it out and put it in a bucket because to stir it up in here is possible, really hard. Usually I get a really big, like a 20 or 40 litre tub, and I'll empty the ingredients into that, mix it up, and then I can easily store it for use whenever I need it throughout the season. And as I say, this is a super versatile mix. I use it with pretty well all of my potted plants, especially indoors, and I've had a lot of success with it. So this is what it looks like when it is mixed up. And there it is. So this is what I've been using for the last couple of years actually. I'm really keen to show you what it looks like and how my recipe has changed a little bit. If you have a different recipe that you've tried and it works, feel free to keep using it. We need to keep testing out our systems, what we use to keep our plants as happy, as healthy as possible. And no doubt, in a couple of years' time, I'll probably adjust my mix again in the future. So reflecting and learning from what we've done in the past and what we find works better is really important. So I'm keen to keep messing around with this recipe, but this is what I've used for the last couple of years and I'm finding it is really good at keeping my plants happy and healthy. Yes, I need to be making sure that I am fertilizing every so often, especially during warmer months, but you have to do that anyway. So I am really happy with this mix and I hope that you have some success with this as well. If you're looking for a video about the size pot and the kind of pot that you should use to keep your avocado trees happy and healthy, I have left a link in the description to a video where I talk all about that. When you get the right soil and the right potting mix together, you're in for a good time generally. Like you're setting your avocado tree up for the best chance of success. And when we're dealing with our plants, that's all we can really do. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lot of success with that if you try it. If you do, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, if you learned something, please let me know in the comments below as well. I love to see it. If you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy other videos on this channel. Please feel free to subscribe to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. And if you can't get enough of my content, I'm also on Instagram at Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. And if that's not enough, I have another channel which I am very excited about. That's pretty cool, where I make videos about all kinds of things that fill me with a sense of curiosity and wonder. And I'd love you to check that out as well. Links to all those things are in the description below. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree.